Hey there! My name is Corinne O'Flynn, and you're listening to the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I am a USA Today bestselling author, nonprofit executive, and organizing nerd with over 20 years' experience running my own small businesses. I teach entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and small business owners like you how to organize your business, find more time, and deepen your alignment practice to experience more calm and confidence every single day. If you're looking for that intersection between practical business advice and spiritual goodness, then you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome to the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Corinne O'Flynn, and this is episode 2. I am so excited to be here, and I'm so glad that you're here. Podcasting has always been a dream of mine. As an avid listener myself to many amazing podcasts for years now, it's so bizarre and really kind of surreal that I'm the one who's now behind the mic in my own little home studio, sharing my stuff with you. So I wanted to thank you again for being here and for joining me on this adventure. And if something I share resonates with you, please email me. Let me know. I want to know because I can talk some more about the things that you want to hear more about, or I can change my tack if it's not resonating with you. But I plan to share all of it. I want to share what I know. I want to share what I'm learning. I wanted to share my successes and my failures because that's life and that's business. And I want us to grow together. So happy New Year. To those of you who are tuning in when this episode goes live, it's January 3rd and it's a cold and snowy day here in Colorado. So I'm glad that you're here. And on today's episode, I wanted to dive in and talk to you about something cool that I learned recently about email marketing. And before you say, email marketing, like everybody, really, we're talking about email marketing? I promise it's worth the wait. So let me start with a story. I was at a conference this past fall where a lot of people were talking about marketing and social media and TikTok and all of the things that we should be doing to get our message out there. And one of the things that kept on being brought up was that we needed to be nurturing our newsletter list, which really is no surprise. We do. We need to be nurturing our email list, and we need to stop thinking about it as a list and as a bunch of people. It's a group of people. One of the best analogies that I ever heard about email marketing is when you look at your list in an email service. What you're looking at is a number of people. It's a large number of people just there. And you don't know many of them personally, or if you're really, really fortunate, you do. But in business, when we grow our email newsletter list, we have to be constantly aware of the fact that there are people who have subscribed because they want to hear from you, right? It's not about collecting people and moving on. And the analogy that I heard that I continue to think about is imagine that you're having a tea party and you live on a busy street and there's people walking back and forth on your street and you're standing on your porch and you're holding your tea and you're shouting, hey, come join me. Come sit on my porch. Come join us. We're having this wonderful tea party here on my porch and I would love to get to know you and share my things with you and learn about you and all these things. And imagine that you have success and you're able to bring those people onto your porch. Well, now you can't keep standing on the top step shouting out to the people and ignoring the people that are on your porch. They came to your party. So when you think about nurturing your list, that's what I want you to think about. It's what I think about. I think that you can tell when a business is kind of dialing it in and not really paying attention. And I'm not talking about personalizing an email. If you can do that, that's wonderful. I'm just talking about really meeting your customers, meeting your subscribers where they're at, like knowing who they are in a broad sense and in a very specific sense if you're able to do that. So anyway, back to my story. I'm at a conference and the people that are teaching the classes over the course of several hours kept on talking about marketing and using your newsletter list. And afterward, I was at dinner with a bunch of the attendees, and more than I expected, a lot of people were expressing this resistance to putting a lot of energy back into their email marketing. And it wasn't that they didn't have an email list or that they didn't know how to use their email list. I think any business doing anything online today has to have an email list. And everybody at this event for sure had an email list because it was an event for professionals. But the resistance that they felt was, do I really need to be putting energy back into my email list? Like, isn't sending an email like kind of over? Like, email's not really going to be the best use of my time compared to the other things that I'm doing, like TikTok and Instagram Reels, or engaging in my Facebook group where I can see real results in real time. And so as the conversation turned, it became a conversation about like, well, is blogging dead? Yes, blogging's dead. Is email dead? Yes, email's dead. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't know. Because there's still blogs that I read every single day. And I spend a ton of time reading emails as a consumer. But one of the first things that we all learn when we are entrepreneurs, or actually, if you don't know it, you should listen to this because it's important. When you are an entrepreneur and you are selling online and you are doing your marketing online, you should not make business decisions and marketing decisions based on your own personal behaviors. Because as a business owner, you're experiencing the world with a different set of eyes than someone who's not running a marketing campaign. But also, you're different from me and I'm different from the next person. And who knows what any of us is going to, respond to or resonate with. So don't assume because you're tired of email or because your email is flooded with all these things that you subscribed to over the years that it isn't effective. And don't assume simply because, everybody was blogging back in the 2000s, but nobody's blogging today. That's not true either. But anyway, I didn't really have an answer because all I could speak to was my own experiences with blogging and emailing. And so I didn't know. So I went on a mission, as I do. I don't know how many of you out there are like me, but I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out the answer to the question, is email dead? Spoiler alert, I'll skip to the good part. No, it isn't dead. Email is very much alive. But I learned something else during my research adventure that's kind of mind-blowing to me. It still is. I haven't stopped thinking about it. It's been a couple of weeks since I started doing my research for this episode, and this is what I really wanted to share with you today. So I'll get to that. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about some data that I found that supports the fact that email is not dead. Far from it. And I'll share some data about that. I'm going to talk to you about how email is more savvy than ever before and how we need to capitalize on that. Then I'll share some really cool data that I found that has to do with your subscribers. It may be something that intuitively or instinctively we say, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I think having the data is really kind of eye-opening. And then I'm going to wrap up with some best practices so that you have some actionable steps that you can take with you and you can do now that you know this information. I'll have a checklist that I put together for you for email best practices for 2023 that'll be available for you in the show notes for this episode, which will be available at corinneoflynn.com/episode 2. And that's going to be the word episode and the digit 2. So, is email dead? The answer is no. Far from it. There was a study out of McKinsey and Company that shows that email is 40 times more effective at acquiring a new customer than Facebook or Twitter. 40. Email is more powerful than ever. According to another study out of a company called VentureBeat, email is still the leading generator in ROI for internet marketers, with a whopping $38 of revenue returned for every dollar invested. That beats social media, radio, TV, video marketing, and even affiliate marketing, which I thought was saying something because affiliate marketing is a lucrative way for entrepreneurs to increase revenue. And that's something that I'll be talking about in a future episode. So if you're interested in that, be sure to follow and subscribe to the show. So email is also more savvy than ever. And what do I mean by that? Technological advancements just keep on coming, and they have changed the way that businesses use email, and as well as the end users and how they interact with email. For businesses, That looks like everything from contact tagging and list segmenting to responsive email templates and personalization and pre-built automations that you can install at the click of a button, all the way to AI bots for optimization and keywords and even writing your copy. Many services have spam testing for your headlines to keep your email out of the junk folder. They offer split testing to increase the open rates, pre-built landing pages, sales funnels, and e-commerce solutions like Shopify have their own set of automations depending on customer behavior. You have probably experienced that yourself. When you have maybe gone shopping on a website that uses Shopify, and you might not know that they're using Shopify. That's neither here nor there. But let's say that you're browsing and you pop something into your cart and then you change your mind or you want to think about it or you just step away and you don't purchase. How many times have you gotten an email that says, hey, did you forget something? Yoo-hoo, you left something in your cart. That's an automation sequence that's built into these systems that is, you don't have to do anything. The capabilities that are available now make it possible for our small businesses, for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and small businesses to market and compete in ways that are out of reach, that were out of reach to us 5 years ago. Like we can compete with all the big guys because of these automations that are built in to the technology of the email. So I have some stats for you that are really interesting. For email users, this is now the consumer side of the email, not for the businesses. According to Campaign Monitor, mobile traffic worldwide accounts for 52.2% of all web page traffic. 52.2% of all web page traffic is coming from mobile devices. And that's the worldwide. If you then cycle down to just the US, that number goes from 52.2 to 57%. That's all traffic. But when you look at email, the data speaks for itself. 50% of emails were opened on mobile in 2018. 40% of people 18 and under will always open an email on their mobile devices first. 28% of people 19 to 34 years of age read email on their mobile devices. This number continues to decline as the readers age up, with only 8% of people 56 and older using email on mobile first, with 55% never using mobile at all to consume their email. This is where it's so important to know who your customers are because it means you need to know how to reach them. It's not enough to just send an email and hope. If you're optimizing for mobile and your users are not using mobile at all, then you're kind of wasting energy there. Another interesting data point is that mobile isn't just phones, right? 40% of people responding access email using mobile devices, with 81% of that being phones and 21% using tablets. So what does all of this mean for us? So the first thing you need to do is you need to know your metrics, right? You need to get a bead on your email key performance indicators, right? This is crucial, and you need to be able to measure your current situation so that you can track moving forward and your progress when you do performance improvements. According to a website called The Hoff, there are 15 key performance indicators that you can track, and this includes things like delivery rate, open rate, and click-through rate, and more. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got a free email best practices checklist for you that I will list those out for you, and that'll be available in the show notes. So now that you have that data, what do you do now? Well, the next thing that I think that you need to do is look at the email service that you're using and look at the features that they offer to you. Are there other things that they offer that you're not utilizing? Most providers have an education area with tutorials on how and why you could and should be implementing new features that fit with your business. And if you're using e-commerce, the cart functionality with WooCommerce and Shopify has some really powerful tracking. Set up automations to make sure that you're making the best use of those things. My advice when it comes to performance improvements is to pick one thing, learn it really well, and start using it and making it part of your regular practice before you jump in with the next one. The last thing you need is to get overwhelmed here when the goal is to simplify and automate, right? So take this one slow. Right now, the status quo, your business is running. If you want to improve things, this is a place where you can start. So pick one thing, really become an expert at it, maximize the use of it, and then carry on to the next thing and track your data. Responsive design is more important than ever. And this goes back to the metrics of the people. If everybody on your list, if your target demographic is people who are 18 and under, well, 40% of those people are only using mobile, or using mobile first, I should say, to consume their email. So that means that your email needs to be super compelling, right? You can't afford to lose them. You can't afford to have them blow by a really boring email or an email that doesn't convert well to mobile, and then they're going to forget you. It doesn't matter how fabulous your email looks on a full-size screen if your traffic is using a phone, right? If all of your subscribers are using a phone, you need to make your email look like it fits on a phone. And the compelling part of it is really important as well. You need to engage your reader as soon as they open the email, right? You're going to risk being ignored or deleted or forgotten, which is the worst, right? The data suggests that many users open an email on their device first, but they don't necessarily interact during that initial open. They may come back to it later on the same device when they have more time to peruse and sit with your email, or they may wait until they're on a computer so that they can engage and click through. And I know that's actually true for me. I have all of my payment stuff saved on my desktop for the longest time. And I would usually mark an email or flag it as, check this one again so that I can come back and not have to go to my wallet and pull up my credit card to make a purchase. Now I am much more savvy about all of those things and I have everything connected. But I used to be one of those people that opened up an email on my phone and then made a mental note to come back to it when I was at my desk. So, even I do that. I'm part of that data. The data also says that for mobile readers who open a second time on a computer after first time opening on mobile are 60% more likely to click through. Like, think about that. Like, it's such a weird detail. It's such a nuanced thing. But what this is telling me is that you need to make sure that your emails are mobile friendly and desktop friendly, depending on where your people are, right? So what does that mean? How does that look in action? Well, first, subject line length matters. If most of your readers are looking at your emails on mobile, then a shorter subject line is going to work better, right? And if you're serving people that are 55 and older, well, mobile isn't really where most of them are reading email, so that might not be a vital metric for you. And this is where split testing can come in. If your email service provider offers split testing, this is an ideal way, testing subject lines, long and short, and then tracking the metrics to see how those are being consumed on mobile and desktop, because most of the services have that information for you. So after the subject line, the next vital piece of real estate in your email is the pre-header text, and most email services allow for this. This is the first line of text under the subject, which on mobile is usually the third line the user sees underneath your name and then the subject. And then think about the screen size when you're writing your copy. Brevity is your friend on mobile, right? But also when you consider the reduced attention span of people, even when they're on their computers, we need to make sure that we're getting to the point, right? Make it punchy, make it catchy, tell them what they want right off the bat. The other thing that is really your friend when it comes to email design, specifically with mobile, is white space. Have you ever tried to tap a link on a phone screen and you accidentally fat finger it because it's right on top of something else that's also a link? I can't tell you how frustrating that is for me. Like, this is one of those things where, I can speak for everybody confidently when I say that this is something that happens for me. And I also know that other people are frustrated by it. So this is probably the one exception to the rule where I get to behave like my customers and make decisions accordingly. So give your text links and your calls to action lots of finger room, especially for mobile. And if your email service provider has the option, when you're in the design place of your email template, Usually they have a little toggle where you can look at this email on a desktop and then look at how it's going to render on a tablet and then look at how it's going to show up on a phone. And then you can adjust them accordingly. And I think that you really need to make that part of your strategy. The other piece of this is people who use text only. A lot of people, especially now that people are becoming more concerned with phishing scams and virus stuff that comes embedded into images, they're turning on the text only by default. They can turn on the images, but they might not always have them, and they might have to whitelist you before your images come through by default. So you need to make sure that your copy makes sense without the images in place. You need to make your calls to action easy to see and easy to do, regardless of the device. Using buttons and clear language for your calls to action is a great way to do that. And then track engagement. And if people are not engaging in your emails, before you cull them from your list, you need to run a re-engagement campaign and make sure, because there's lots of things that, like the seasons and kids at school and the holidays, and just because you're writing emails and it's business as usual for you does not mean that that's what's happening in the world. The other thing that's important is your open rates. iOS 14 changed the way that Apple reports back because of their privacy rules. And what that did was it changed the reliability of the open rate metric. So you need to be aware of how your email service provider reports open rates since the iOS 14 privacy change. The reliability of that number is not what it used to be, and you need to factor that into the way that you evaluate your metrics. I know that in ActiveCampaign, which is what I use, they accommodate for it. They use an estimation of that. But even then, it's not a true number anymore because we just don't know. The next thing is to make your emails really easy to unsubscribe from. When it comes to email list building, it is not about the quantity of subscribers that you have, but it really is about how engaged they are. And so when I talk about engagement, actually, I'm not talking about sales. Sales is like the last part of engagement when it comes to your subscribers. People that are on your newsletter list are consuming the information that you're sending them. They are connecting with you. They are trying to build a relationship with you, and they are there to receive the relationship that you're offering them. Many times, it takes a really long time for a person who is a subscriber, who is a reader, to get to the point where they become a customer. And this kind of goes back to that whole conversation I had earlier about the people on your porch. You have a whole bunch of people on your porch and they're hanging out with you and they're listening to your message and they're sharing stories and they're enjoying the things that you're sharing with them. But it might take them a little while before they are either able to pull the trigger on a purchase because of price concerns, or maybe what you're selling to them is something that they're not ready for. And then they finally get to the place where they're ready and now they're wanted from you. And so you need to make sure that you are nurturing everybody on your list, because not everyone on your list is a paying customer. You need to continue to provide value to all of your subscribers, because when the time comes and they are ready to take their relationship with you to the next level, you want them to feel connected to you and your products and services, and that you see them and that you understand that their ability or willingness to become a customer does not change the way that you speak to them. So that's all I have for you today. I thought it was really cool. The thing that kind of blew my mind was making sure that you design your emails for your audience. You need to make sure you know where they're from and where they're at. And again, I'm going to put all this stuff into the show notes, into a download for you that I'll have a link in the show notes. And again, the show notes can be found at CorinneO'Flynn.com/episode 2. And that's the word episode and the digit 2. And so to wrap up, it is not enough to just build an email list. You must always have an eye on your email list health, and not only have a plan to nurture and maintain this relationship with your subscribers, but to really step out of that, the old way of thinking where it's all about sales, because it really isn't all about sales. Yes, we're running businesses. Yes, we do want to make sales, but people that don't purchase from you are not someone who should be ignored. I think that you need to really embrace the journey of the know, like, and trust factor. That's a piece of it. But also embrace the subscriber's experience. The person who's reading your stuff is a human being who is living their life. And you never know what it is that's keeping them from pulling the trigger on, making a purchase with you, or subscribing to your free class, or attending, something that you're doing online. I think it's just really important that you come to your email list and you speak to your subscribers regardless of where they are on your balance sheet. And I think that if you do that, you will find yourself, one, falling back in love with the way that you nurture your list. Two, I think that the connections that you will forge with your subscribers will be that much more authentic. And three, I do believe that being real and being true and treating every subscriber as though they were a person sitting on your porch will eventually support your business, which is really what it's all about, right? Your business is serving the people, and you get to serve more people when you're mindful of all of these things from day one. So that's what I've got for you today. And my advice to you, as in all things, is you are not to go back and overhaul and change everything in the past. What you're going to do is you're going to start where you are. Just pick up where you are. And if you want to change the way you're doing your business, start right now. Remember, part of being a calm entrepreneur is developing the systems, habits, and know-how that lets you know that you are the one in the driver's seat. You get to choose how you run your business, and you get to choose how you work. So you got this. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Corinne O'Flynn, and if this episode was valuable to you, please head on over and rate and review wherever you consume your podcasts. Please subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. New episodes go out each week on Tuesdays, and I look forward to hanging with you again. This is Corinne signing off. Have an excellent day.